What's scarier, the monster outside your door or the one inside your mind? Welcome to Fearapy Sessions, horror from our perspective. We are your hosts, Pam and Domonique, two Black women therapists who live and breathe horror. And every week, we'll dive into the creepiest corners of film and culture through the lens of psychology, identity, and lived experience. From psychological thrillers to haunted houses, from the horror of not being believed to the monsters of the mind. No fear goes unanalyzed. Welcome. Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome back. Welcome
Ni
back.
what
All right.
episode is this? Oh,
Episode 4.
yes,
4.
yes.
Good old episode 4. Well, welcome back to Therapy Sessions, everyone, where we do a deep dive into the dark, the eerie, and some of the fascinating parts of horror that we enjoy. And so if you've been with us for these first few episodes, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. Make sure you go back and watch or listen to the first few episodes so you kind of get an idea of where we started and look at where we're at now. Even at episode 4, like, things have kind of progressed in
Yeah,
a way that feel really good. So I'm really
yes,
excited.
100%.
So today we're going to be sinking our teeth, pun intended,
Mhm.
into one of the most like enduring and adaptable quote unquote monsters in cinema history,
Yes,
the vampire.
vampires, yes.
Love a vampire film. Love a good vampire film. So yeah. So we're gonna start with
Well,
the
first
history.
well,
But yes.
first,
Yes. Ooh.
it's very important. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen all the vampire movies, pause right here, go watch them. We'll be here when you come back. So
Did you say all
spoiler,
of them?
all of them, the whole list. You need to go watch the main ones and then come back and you can jump right on back in. We'll be here.
Jump
Carry
in.
on.
Dive right on in, right? All right. So yeah, so we're gonna do a brief history and then we're gonna talk about a few really important films in the vampire realm of cinema, and we're going to give you some suggestions on some things to watch if you haven't watched them yet. But yeah, we're really excited about this episode because, well,
Yes.
I know I am because I absolutely love vampires. So last episode, Pam got the zombies. Now I get the vampires.
Yes.
Let's start by talking about how vampires were already haunting the human imagination before the invention of film, right? So every culture has its own version of a quote unquote vampire. So Eastern Europeans, they have like the revenants and they have blood drinkers. Asians and Africans had some similar things in terms of their legends about spirits who would drain life in order to survive. And that kind of feels very messagey, right? Considering the histories of Asia and Africa. And then these stories they're not just about monsters. So they encompass everything from fear, the fear of death, disease, and even like spiritual corruption for some of the stories. And so there's a lot that goes into vampires. And so those fears ended up finding a home on the screen. And so do you know what the first film was that
No.
looked at vampires? I'm probably not going to do you know what? I'm not even going to try I'm going to give you the translated version of it, right?
Mhm.
So in 1896, there was a filmmaker. His name was George Millier, and he created this film called The House of the Devil. And so it's not technically a vampire film. Okay. So I don't want anybody to come back and be like, hey, that's not a vampire film.
Yeah.
It's
I've
not
never
technically
heard of it.
it's not technically a vampire movie, but they have transforming bats, they've got demons, and it's actually considered probably the earliest horror film because it had some imagery in it. And so it kind of planted the seed for supernatural cinema moving forward. But then after that came the film in 1913 called The Vampire, which gave us the term vamps. And so this one's really interesting because this is actually focused on a woman. So the phrase vamps and vampire in film came from a film with women in it. So it wasn't like the bloodsuckers that we think about today. It was this woman who was seductive and she destroyed things through desire. And so it was the initial kind of introduction of the femme fatale. And so it's a really interesting film. Again, it's a 1913 film. And I know some people are like, oh, I don't like old movies, but it's always worth a watch. And then the second one came, the iconic Nosferatu. So Nosferatu, 1922. Have you seen Nosferatu?
Not the entire one. I always see clips of these older ones, but that's a
Mhm.
remake.
It is there have
Yeah, I've seen the
been a
remake.
number of remakes. So
Mhm.
there's a TV show or a series remake. I believe it's on AMC.
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
there's the movie that came out, I believe last year or the year before that. So Nosferatu is deemed like the birth of the cinematic vampire. Fun fact, it actually technically was not authorized by the Stoker family.
Mm.
And Bram Stoker's wife was very mad. She was big mad. Went, sued, all the things. And technically, the movie and all its imagery was supposed to be destroyed, but a couple of things survived, which is why we have the images and the ability to watch the movie now. So it is available.
Mhm.
You can go see it, I believe, right now. I know you can see it on Tubi
Yeah.
because I wanted to look it up and be able to tell you all where you could find it. But yeah, you can find it on Tubi. It is a black and white. It is a silent film. It's the one that if you're like, which one is that one? It's the one where the guy is bald headed. He's got like a rat face, sharp
The
teeth,
ears.
the ears, the pointy ears, the long weird fingers. But yeah, that one it's a creepy one. It's a
Yeah.
very, very creepy one. So remember when we were talking about, I think you had mentioned before, in the first episode or the second episode when we were talking about how vampires have changed in like 30 Days a Night, and you were like, those are
Yeah.
scary. They're not
Those were
like,
scary. Yes.
yeah. So that's kind of how it started off. Like you
Mhm.
had the Nosferatu, but where the sexy starts to creep in,
The sexy.
the sexy in about 1931, you get Bela Lugosi,
Mhm.
right? And he is what people think of in terms of the iconic vampire because he was elegant, he was mysterious, he was hypnotic. He was like a mix of charm, but also a straight menace. And
Yeah.
then that's also where you get the accent, that's where you get the cape, that's where you get the slicked back hair. All of the ways that vampires showed up later on came from Bela Lugosi. And so after that, we transitioned. There's some movies in there, but then we transitioned into the 70s and Blackula.
Blackula.
So Blackula was I love Blackula. It was definitely a departure, but also stayed true to some of the things in a certain way. And Blackula actually reminds me of Vampire in Brooklyn, in
Yes.
a sense. But for Blackula, yeah, he was like an African prince who turned into a vampire. He's walking around LA. There's the themes of like the strong social commentary themes for um, Blackula, which also kind of connect to Sinners, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And so then we run headfirst into the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And we got some of the more iconic vampire films that we all know and love that came through during that time. Yeah, let's jump into one of the ones from the 80s. I think this one is your favorite, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Are we talking about that interview thing? Which one are we talking about?
No, we talking about The Lost Boys.
Yes.
Yeah, we talking about The
And
Lost
can I
Boys.
just say, we're talking about this one. When you talking about like sexy vampires, they they weren't it wasn't scary anymore. Like I know y'all killing people, whatever, but the way they would have kidnapped me and I would have willingly went. I
Like,
would went as a kid watching this, I was like, "Ooh, I wanna be a vampire." It
mhm,
was they made
mhm,
it so
mhm,
sexy. Like
mhm,
you would have
and stylish and, like,
yes.
funny and youthful and yeah,
And
yeah,
they were the cool kids,
they
right?
were,
And so it was really cute because, they had the Coreys on
worse.
this one, the Coreys. They were like, the team in the '80s, right? And so
Uh-huh.
they were trying to kill him and they were going through all of the vampire rules and stuff, but all I could think about is like, look at him. And when like his brother turned into a vampire, I'm like, that fits
Mhm.
you. You
Mhm.
look good as a vampire.
Mhm.
They did
Mhm.
not look like the vampires from the 20s at all.
Yeah, not at all, and they made you kind of ask a question of, like, what if being a vampire is fun? Like,
Mm.
what if this is
You can
exciting? What if it's
fly.
not horrible? You can fly, you can
I
do
mean,
all
you can't go outside during the
you
day.
can't go
I mean,
outside
you
during the
can't
day,
look at your reflection, but you always look good.
but you always fly, like, that I think that's the trade-off, is
Yeah.
that you don't have to see your reflection
I don't need a
because
mirror. What?
you don't have to see your reflection because 'cause you're good. You know you
Yeah.
good, not a
Yeah.
hair out of place.
And I would say to your point, the Lost Boys might be my number one. If it's for
Mm,
the longest time. Sometimes as time goes on with horror movies, I'll change the order
mhm,
because new
mhm,
ones come out. But I think I have to keep it true to Lost Boys being it made an impact.
yeah.
Like that's my go-to, I do believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Um, okay, so let's kind of jump. No, I was gonna jump ahead, right? I was gonna
Okay.
jump ahead into the 2000s, but we're gonna take a stop in the
Yeah.
90s and talk about
Yes.
Vampire in Brooklyn
Yes.
because
That was a big it was different. Was that
it was so different.
I don't think we had a Blackula. It jumped from
Mhm,
Blackula to Vampire in Brooklyn. Like, I
mhm,
don't really there
mhm.
wasn't a lot of in between there, I don't believe.
No, because I don't think. Wait, was there a black vampire in Interview with a Vampire?
Not the original.
I know in the remake, but I was trying to remember the original. So no, I think Eddie was next after Blackula.
Mhm.
If we are wrong, y'all, if we're
Please
missing
tell us,
somebody,
yeah.
please tell us.
Yeah, because I love going back watching stuff.
We are
Please tell me.
completely open
Yeah.
to you telling us that we missed something. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
Vampire in Brooklyn.
and, I know a lot of
Angela
people look at
Bassett
it,
looked incredible.
but she still looked the same because she really a vampire, y'all.
She listen, her and Pharrell and
Yes,
Nicolas Cage.
and Gwen Stefani, they are all vampires. They are
Yeah,
all vampires because you
I
don't age.
joke. Yeah, they don't age. I was rewatching it and I jokingly was like, "Did she use her Tina Turner wig in this movie too?" Because the one that like her hairdo looked like the
Yeah, they did the hairdo was dirty, but when I tell you Eddie and Angela had the mouths for vampire teeth. I don't know what they just
Yes.
it held together so well. And it's
Mhm.
interesting, a lot of people don't know that Wes Craven's famous Nightmare on Elm Street wrote
Mhm.
this one. And I know it's so hard to not think Eddie is funny. I don't think it was supposed to be a comedy, but it's Eddie.
So to me, it falls into the comedy horror
Yeah.
because they were joking. Like you can't be running around saying some of the lines like Kadeem Hardison, like his
Yes.
ear fell off. Like you
Was
just
that
fall
the
into
first
pieces.
time they introduced that? Was there other movies, The
The
Lichens?
the was it Renfield or Renfro? Yeah, I think his name is
Mhm.
Renfield, right? They're I guess the vampire version of what a witch would call a familiar.
Okay.
I think we've seen it before because it's a
Okay.
person who does their bidding during the day.
And that makes sense. Like, so basically, what you're telling me is I could be a vampire, right? I just have to
Mhm.
have a personal assistant who can do all the things I need done during the day. So that's
Yeah,
how vampires work.
yeah.
Got it. I
Apparently,
got it.
apparently.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
But there was something that happened in that movie that reminded me of Fright Night. And so I enjoyed Fright Night,
Yes.
the
Yes,
original
me too.
version.
Yes.
While Colin Farrell is a very handsome man,
Very.
that movie, the remake was garbage. But
Yes.
in
Had
the
nothing on
original,
the original.
nothing. In the original, and I'm like, did I miss something somewhere where vampires and werewolves are supposed to be the same thing? Because in Fright Night, remember the friend, was his name Evil or Evo or something like that? The
Well,
obnoxious one.
yes.
He, like,
Evil.
turned it yeah, he was bit, he was a vampire, but then he turned into a werewolf at one point when
So
he
I
tried
think
to
they are shapeshifters.
okay.
Vampires are technically, please again correct us in the comments, but I believe so werewolves can technically turn and be whoever they want to be. I don't but I agree with you because he went straight,
Yeah,
he went werewolf.
And then Eddie was a werewolf when he came off the ship when it crashed,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so I'm like, "Wait.
Yeah. I think
Those are
they
supposed to
could
be 2 different creatures."
yeah, 100%, but I think they can literally just shapeshift into whatever. Whatever
Okay.
they want you to see cuz they don't have a reflection, but they can be who whoever they want you to see.
Mhm.
But for
Mhm.
me, the part was the pastor part when he's preaching and he's like, "Sex is evil is good." Like that whole that whole part, and like it was
When
it
he
was
walked into
so
the church, and I was like,
it's hot in
"He
here,
about to he about to bust into flames," in his
right?
head, he was like, "God dang." And everybody turned around.
So it is hilarious. I mean, you cannot. It's Eddie. It's
It
Eddie.
is.
I don't know how Angela made it through taping.
I don't wait, was that the first of his films where he played multiple different people?
I thought about this, but I don't think so. Cause what we talking about? What year was this? The 90s?
96?
Was that before Coming to America?
That's right.
Yeah. So
No, Coming
yeah.
to America. Coming to
Mhm.
America.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this
That's
was
right.
that's probably where they got the idea from, and so
Mhm.
then he did. So it was before the clumps, but
Mhm,
after
yes.
Coming to America. So yeah. But that he was an amazing.
He
I mean,
was,
I am not gonna give him the sexiest vampire. He looked alright,
but
but
he yes,
he
the
was
sex appeal was
hilarious.
there.
Yes, he
Like,
was
he
hilarious. I think
mhm.
Angela brought more of the sexiness in that movie
She
than
did.
Eddie did. So yes, but
She
yeah, that
did.
definitely. And I think the 80s and 90s was just full of vampire movies.
Him and
Really,
his soul glow.
he brought that to Vampire Brooklyn a little bit too.
He did.
But it does seem like it was just full of like. But Fright
Mhm.
Night was the 80s, right?
Fright Night was the '80s. Mhm. So,
And
I
so
think I can't remember if Fright Night came out before or after The Lost Boys, but Fright Night was the '80s. So,
yeah,
again, you still got the sexy vampire
yeah.
because you've got the neighbor who is just, like, sex walking.
Mhm. Mhm.
That movie was it just reminded me how unnecessarily awkward sex was in '80s movies.
Yeah.
So you've got the sexy, and then we go ahead and jump into 2000s.
And before you go, can I just say the movie is not on our list, but the movie that messed up vampires went in the
Which
2000s,
one?
Twilight. I just want to throw that in
Yeah,
there because
yeah,
I
yeah.
please don't beat me up in the comments. But I do I like Twilight, Team Jacob, whatever. But I
Books were
feel
better.
like it yes. I
Mhm.
feel like it did something like I already thought they were sexy. I was gonna run from them, be like, "Don't catch me." But
And then, like,
but
intentionally trip
right,
over
but
nothing.
I knew they had with Twilight, they going to school with you.
Mhm,
What's going on? Like, they sparkle in
mhm.
the sun. Like, they can go
Yeah,
out I feel like that damaged the
mhm.
vampire thing a little bit.
The romanticization, like, it was overboard. It
Mhm,
just they
mhm.
took it a little too far, in my
Yes,
opinion. But you know
yes.
what? It's okay because 30 Days a Night said, "We gonna correct this," even though
Will
30
will
Days a Night came out before
mhm,
Twilight. They
mhm.
they said, "You know what? We're gonna show y'all something. We
This is
gonna correct this idea of vampires being sexy." And
yes,
so, if you haven't seen 30 Days a Night, again, go watch it. It's a good film.
it's a good
It's
one.
based in Alaska, and it's surrounding the idea that they spend 30 days in pure darkness, which is terrifying to me. Like, I
Alone.
could not alone. Like, I'm not afraid of the dark, but it brings forward the concern of, like, well-being,
Mhm.
right? And so just being immersed in darkness at all times, and there's folks that, they struggle with seasonal affective, and that's, things getting dark a little early. Can you imagine having no sunlight for 30 days? And that's what I think that the real message behind this movie was, because it did. It flipped the script. There were no sexy vampires.
Not one.
These creatures, these vampires, whatever you want to call them, they were savage. They were animalistic. They're in this brutal, relentless cold. It reminded me that, like, vampires aren't just metaphors, right? Sometimes they're just like they're here
Yeah.
just to feed. And it was this message of survival that felt very much like, if you take out the creature and you say there is this darkness, there is this sense of despair, this just utter, I don't even know what the word is, that just kind of sits heavy on you when
Mhm.
you are immersed in darkness like this for so long, and it just ravages you. And then you're left to fight it on your own, you're left to figure it out, and then after 30 days, here comes the sun. And I
Yeah.
was like, "You know what? There's a deep message here. It's not just
And as
about."
you're talking, and it just made me think of a important part when we joke about the sexiness.
Mhm.
The sexy vampires is who they want us to see.
Mhm.
Like we were talking about, they are shapeshifters, and so we see the
Mhm.
sexy because that's how you lure, like,
Yeah.
the prey in, but by the sexiness. But in 30 Days a Night, they didn't need you to see their sexiness because they
No, they did
coming and
not.
there's nowhere you can go.
And they
See,
already
yeah,
knew. Yeah, they know what's up. They're like, "You know what? We don't even." I bet you they do enough feeding in those 30 days
for
to
the
be
year.
for the year, right?
Yes.
To be perfectly fine to go somewhere else and just deal with nighttime stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, "You know what? We're gonna go ahead and wait for these 30 days
Mhm.
to come because we about to feast.
Yeah,
There's nothing that's
100%.
gonna be able to stop us
Yeah.
in these 30 days."
Yeah, because so in reality, all of the vampires probably look just like that.
Yeah,
Because you do see
yeah.
that when something happens, when they're hurt or when something happens, they go ugly, all of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
when they're in pain, they can't hold the sexy, right? So,
Yeah.
but if
Yeah.
30 Days a Night, like, nope, this is who we
The
are.
mask
They're being
drops.
their authentic selves
Yeah, they
30 Days
not
a Night.
no mask
Yes,
whatsoever, no coverage.
100%. Yeah,
But yeah, so thinking also of the message that for me felt obvious in 30 Days of Night, kinda reminds me of the message in Sinners. And so, do you wanna tell the people about Sinners?
yeah. Sinners is awesome. You get to see the sexy
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan twice. That's why I went to see the movie. I love vampires too, however. It's an amazing movie. It talks a lot about it has a very social justice message to it, and I love
Mhm,
that. It's taking place during the civil rights segregated times where these
mhm.
two twin brothers open up a juke joint. If you don't know about a juke joint, Google it. And so they're opening up this like nightclub and everybody's having fun. And it has so many nuggets. So
Yeah.
many nuggets in it. And so it has a religious nugget, which it seems like a lot of
Mhm.
horror movies have that. It has, the things, there's nothing at night, nothing good out in the streets at night, as many of
Nothing.
us were told. And so when you go out at night, bad things happen. And this movie takes place within 24 hours. So
That's the best part of it.
that's the
Yeah.
best part. And they have so many cultural references. You have Native Americans who kind of show up in this. You have the Southern Dixiecrat, white
Mhm.
individuals from that time. You have black people
You
who
have the Irish
the Irish,
settlers
you have
who
the
are like
Asian. Yep.
mhm, mhm.
So it's a
Yep.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that part of the film and kind of that depiction because they showed that you had all of these people who were living amongst each other seamlessly and like seemingly in harmony, right? Like working together because there was that shared understanding, that similar lifestyle, upbringing, just background. And then you have the vampires that
Yeah.
come, and they are to me, I viewed them as culture vultures, right?
Yes.
What people would call culture vultures now, that was what they were.
They stole the ideals
They
100%.
did. They did. It was strong cultural theft, and it was this consumption and commodifying of the music and the blues and the just everything that made the folks from this community who they were and made them so incredible and unique. Like it was haunting, it was political, it was so deeply rooted also in the power of music, right?
Yeah. Oh, that
Like
part. Oh,
yeah, yeah, and to me, it just showed that horror isn't just about fear, like, it's about truth too, and there is so much more to some of these films, and I feel like that is an evolution that we're seeing.
100%.
Yeah. So what do you think is, like, the next step in vampire films?
Well, I think we need more culture and time periods. I think that would be
Mhm,
kind of cool.
mhm.
Think going just staying with that thought of the true rules of vampire. Even think about post-pandemic vampire movies that need to probably happen
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But I will say, even with just looking at how they did the rules and centers, they really did stay true. They just had one component that I'm not sure was there before.
What do you
That mind component where they were like a unit. Like
Oh,
once
like a hive.
yeah, a hive
Yes, like,
mentality. Was
yeah,
that
the
a thing
hive
before?
mentality. I mean, they stick together, but
Mhm,
no, because a lot of what you see is very individualistic, but there's, like, this hierarchy and
mhm,
because it's usually, like, the person who turned all the other people
Mhm.
But no, there was a strong hive mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I like the keeping vampires at night thing.
Mhm,
So I don't ever truly wanna see, like, movies where they're just walking around. I know we see Blade kinda started going towards that in the '90s,
mhm.
trying to find a way that they can walk around like Blade did, and you
Yeah,
saw that in other ones, but I really it's something more fearful when they can't come out until night.
yeah.
But that I do the hive mentality, that makes a that's unity right there.
Mhm,
Everybody on the same page, with that hive mentality. But, I would have liked to see more of the Native Americans in centers. That's
yeah,
probably the only piece that but I love that they did bring up that social justice. They were not afraid to
they were
just
not.
like the Klan came in the morning, okay?
Mhm,
Like
mhm,
you weren't even thinking, you didn't even know you needed that part. But
mhm.
just to remind you that you in the South and
Yeah.
it's during this era. Actually I said civil rights, this was Jim Crow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
This was Jim
correction on
Crow.
that, this was Jim Crow era, so just a
Mhm.
reminder that the Klan was alive during that time, let's wrap it up, so it's almost like what's scarier, Jim
Mhm.
Crow, the Klan, or vampires?
Right. And I
So
mean, let's be honest, they might have been there in the morning, but just like during
mhm,
that time period, during the day, they were folks, doctors and lawyers
mhm,
and teachers and pastors and,
yeah,
sheriffs
yeah,
and
they
whatever.
were there,
And then at night they were the monsters. And
yeah.
so, yeah.
So I think that using vampires to show those social justice type of things, I think
Mhm.
that would be interesting now, especially with our current political climate and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting to do.
Yeah, it would be. It would be fascinating to see. What I want to do, and I'm going to charge myself with this, is explore more international vampire films.
Mm,
There was one, this is my fault. I forgot to look up the name. I cannot remember, but I loved it. It was on Netflix. It was a while
mhm,
ago. I think I watched it in like 2012-ish, 2011, 2012. It was a French film and it was documentary style. And
mm.
they knew that these people were vampires and they followed them around. And I think that was the first time that I realized like I love subtitles. I mean, I love closed captioning on all things. Okay. Closed
Yeah,
captioning is absolutely the best. And it's not just for folks who are hearing impaired. Listen, it helped me when I had an infant and I still wanted to watch TV and I wasn't turning the
it's
volume up,
facts,
right?
facts,
But
facts.
being able to watch this film in French and then see the subtitles and kind of read it, like it actually added an additional element of suspense. And if I can remember the name, if I could find it, y'all, I will drop it in the comments to let you know. It was a really good film and it was on Netflix back then. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a couple of other ones too. Have you had a chance to see Rainfield? I think you mentioned that one with Nicolas Cage.
I did, yeah.
That was so I loved it. It was so good. It's the first movie, in my opinion. I love Nicolas Cage. Let's just get that clear.
Yeah.
Him and Liam Neeson have a very special place in my heart. But most movies, Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage. Like they wrote it around his character.
Yeah.
This is the first movie that was not Nicolas Cage. He was he was a vampire. And so I feel like it gave him depth and it really I think it was good for him. It was something
Mhm.
different. Like you could close your eyes and forget it's him for a second. So I thought that was a good addition to the the vampire catalog. So
Yeah.
it's not a very serious one. Another one from the 80s, I don't know if you mentioned it, is First Bitten. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah, yes,
Yes,
yes.
I liked that as a kid. Was it Jim Carrey's
That
first
was
movie?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, was he is that I don't know what year
I don't
that
know if it was his
was.
first movie or not, but yes, it
It
was
was
Jim
one of them.
Carrey.
It was one of the
Yeah.
first before we knew who he was, before
Mhm.
In Living
Before
Color,
In
I
Living
think.
Color. Yeah.
Yeah, like 85. I looked that one, 1985. So,
Mhm.
that's a good one, and it might be considered like a comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a good one. So just to add to your, vampire list.
Mm.
But yes, yeah. Ooh, I know a new one, Abigail. Oh my goodness,
Oh, I haven't
Abigail.
seen it. I don't think I've
Ab
seen that one.
Okay, let me tell you about Abigail.
Okay.
Abigail, I think it's on Peacock.
Mhm.
Abigail, basically, it's a story about a little girl who's a vampire, and these people were paid to break into her house to kidnap
Mm.
her.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So they
I did
thinking
see that. I
They're
did see
going
that.
just trying to kidnap this little
Yep.
girl who they
Yep.
think is just some innocent ballerina little girl. Come to find
Mhm.
out she the person that paid them to come kidnap her because she wanted to
Yeah.
play.
She set them
So,
all the way up.
she set them all the way up,
I
and
do
so
remember that film. Yep.
that's a good one. That's another one that they did use the mind stuff a lot in there too.
Mhm.
Like, what she could see what the people she bit saw. So
Yeah.
I love that extra, adding to the vampire list. So,
What was the one with the mom on the plane? Her and her son were going, and weren't they, like, going I think they were traveling to America
wow.
because she was gonna get, like, a cure or something, and then there were hijackers,
Um,
and, like, full-blown mama bear came out.
mhm.
Someone meant why am I forgetting it? Blood Red Sky.
Okay, yep. I
Blood
saw
Red
that
Sky.
one too. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything that's on a plane, I mean, where you gonna
Yeah.
go?
Where you going?
Where you going? Anything that happens on a plane is gonna be good. So yeah, 100%. So yeah. Yeah, and I do think before we wrap up, we do need to talk about what the actual rules are. We've kind of spit them out here and
Oh,
there, the
yeah.
vampire rules. So if you add everything from Lost Boys, from the Draculas and everything, like
Mhm.
what are the rules as we know it?
Rule number 1, they must be invited in. They
That's
can't just
sinners right there.
they
Yes.
can't just come in. My mom and I joke about whether or not a welcome mat
I don't
works.
got one.
I think there was a movie that kind of addressed that, and they were
Renfield
like
does.
oh, so I was like, "I can't remember." They were like, "Get rid of the welcome mat." And so that's number 1. What would you say is number 2?
Well, I just wanna say that as a kid, I woulda died because my parents welcomed everybody in. Jehovah Witnesses, salespeople, we would have been gone because the owners have to welcome
Yeah,
you. So we would have been gone.
listen, like, we were very different because mine were like, "Don't let
Don't
nobody in
open
this
that
house,
door.
don't open the door."
Yeah.
You
So,
be
yeah,
real quiet.
I would say number 2 is they can't go in the sunlight. So
They can't go in the
that's
sunlight.
been across the
Mhm,
board a little
mhm.
bit. Like, they cannot go in the sun unless they something special like a half-breed like Blade.
Yeah, and then Twilight don't count because they glistened, so
They
it was
glisten.
still obvious, right? It was still
Yes.
very, very
We
obvious.
know who they were.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Number 3, garlic.
Garlic. That didn't work in, Lost Boys.
I forgot that.
It didn't work in Lost Boys, but I would say 9 out of 10 it worked.
Yeah, there was another movie that it didn't work in, but the majority of movies yeah,
Yeah,
so you got garlic.
garlic. I would say the next one is reflection. I've never
Mhm.
seen one where they actually had a reflection. And
Yep.
so you can if you got mirrors all around your house, you're gonna know.
You're going to know because they
Mhm,
don't show up.
mhm.
What's another one? Other than sexy, because not all of them are sexy.
Yes. Yeah.
Not all of them are sexy. Real smooth,
Mhm,
apparently.
mhm.
Man, what's another one? Because now
I
I'm
would
drawing a blank.
say, oh, the cross. Cross
Yes,
is the
okay,
you but
and holy water.
you got to have faith, like they say in Fright Night. So,
It was like, it doesn't work on me
it
because
doesn't
you
work
don't have faith."
last time you went to church trying to hold up a cross. Like, no. You gotta have faith for the cross.
Yep,
So that's a good one. In one, silver worked. And I know we
yeah.
we talked about the werewolf thing, but in a couple I've seen actual you had to have silver stakes through the
It's
heart, which
stake
is
to the
another
heart.
one.
That
Yes,
was what I
yes,
couldn't remember. I was like,
yes.
"There's something" Yep, it's a stake to the heart.
Yeah.
Yep,
I think that's the main one. And along with the sunlight, UV light worked too.
it did.
Now let me ask you this, because I am legend. Vampires or zombies?
Zombies.
Say vampires because they couldn't go out in the day.
See, I said zombies, but I think they feel like the low and slow to me, right? Like
Until night though. Ooh. They get
yes, but, like, in terms of low and slow, like, they've been around for a while. Like, this to
gotcha.
me, I Am Legend is we're really far in the future. They've been around for a
That's
while.
true.
They were pushed back. They were pushed into the darkness. They learned
Mm.
to survive by hiding, and then I think they got smart and realized, "We'll wait till they sleep,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then we'll come for them." That's why I say zombies, but they could
Okay.
be vampires.
Yeah, I would
I mean, why can't they
tell
be
us in the
both?
comments. Yeah, they could have been both. They could have been
Could
something
be both.
completely different. So tell us in the comments which one do you think is more? Are they more vampire or zombies? But there is one that I'm shocked that you have not mentioned, and I'm gonna make sure you mention it before we leave. Buffy.
Talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy, and I actually went and
I
watched the
love
movie last
You
night.
watched it?
I did. I
Yay!
didn't realize so
Oh,
many people played in it.
There were so many people
Yeah.
in that movie. Yo,
Luke
Buffy the
Perry.
Vampire Slayer was mine and my brother one of our favorite movies when we were kids, and we would just recite scenes. But I swear to you, my favorite scene, this has nothing to do with horror, was the one vampire when he got staked and he's in the doorway and he's like, "Ah, ah, ah," and he's like banging and like kicking his
Mhm.
foot. Like we would just walk around and do that.
Yes, we were the same. Yes. Yeah. Like, die.
Yeah, like, this is so dramatic, like, this
Yeah.
is but it's so funny, and then
Mhm.
it made way for the TV show with
Mm.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, like,
Yeah.
it
I liked
was
the
a
movie way
good
better, but shout out to her too. The
yeah,
show was
yeah,
okay, but it
which
didn't have
yeah.
anything on the movie.
No, no, the movie cult classic, like, the movie
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, it had
Yeah,
all this it had the future Scream Kings and Queens on them. So if you
it
haven't watched
did.
Buffy, it had like the Sutherlands are Scream Kings. Like, and
Mhm,
this had Donald Sutherland in it. It
mhm.
had who you
Kiefer
call
was in Lost Boys. Mhm.
yeah, and then he was in Body Snatchers
Oh, yeah.
originally.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so he was a Scream King on his own, and it had the old dude from Dewey from Scream. What's his name?
Uh,
Arquette,
yeah,
which his sister's a Scream Queen too from Freddy. And so it had all these people. Now Luke Perry went a whole different direction. This was
he did.
before he became Johnny Bravo on 90210, with the hair and everything.
With
But so it, you know that was Johnny Bravo hairstyle. But this it had everybody in there, so it was a really,
Mhm.
really, really good movie. Especially for its time. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go see it. And you got, like we always say, you got to see the good ones, the bad
Yeah,
ones, the
and
okay
the bad one.
ones, and some of them
Mhm.
you just like when you're a kid, and
Yeah,
it's worth watching when you're an adult. So yeah,
yeah.
so yeah.
Well, we have a few. We got homework for y'all again, right? So this is Fearapy, and we're not gonna leave without any homework, so we have a couple that we suggest if you haven't seen or if it's been a while since you've seen it, you go ahead and revisit it. So Nosferatu is one. Dracula, the original Dracula, is gonna be the next one. Interview with a Vampire, the original, and then the series if you haven't seen it yet.
Mhm.
The series, so good.
Can we
Chef's
yes, this can we
Kiss.
put a let's put a pin
Yep,
right there
yep,
just to say
yep.
the series. I liked Interview with the
Chef's Kiss.
Vampire, but once I saw the series and looked back at the original, I was like, dang, this is kind of not that good.
Mhm,
Like, they're
mhm.
sexy, you know how I feel
Mm,
about the
yeah.
sexy, but it wasn't that good. Okay,
Not
so
that
just
good.
just FYI, just
Oh my
throwing that
gosh.
out there.
And then Kirsten Dunst was her character.
She
Whew.
was adorable,
Yeah, but
but
obnoxious.
yes,
Like, oh my gosh. Y'all listen, y'all know how I feel about obnoxious kids in horror movies.
yeah, yeah,
Flashback, callback to the Babadook.
yes,
That
the
little
bad
boy
kids,
hurts
yes,
my
yes.
damn soul. But yes, so if you haven't seen the series, go ahead and binge it, especially since the Vampire Lestat is, I think it's currently in production. So
Mhm,
gotta be ready to watch
yes,
that.
100%.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Which is my second favorite vampire movie, and then I would say Sinners is my third one, and they remind me of each other. I feel
They
like
do.
Dust
They
to
do.
Dawn is like the Hispanic vampire movie,
Mhm.
Sinners is like the Black vampire movie, but
Mhm.
they are very similar. Love
Yep.
it. And
Yep.
you
So
didn't even know it was a vampire movie the whole first half of the movie.
you didn't.
Gotta love that.
Not at all. All right, so we got The Lost Boys on there, so if you haven't seen it, What We Do in the Shadows, there's the movie and the TV series.
Mhm. Mhm.
The TV series is hilarious.
Yeah, the
Like,
movie's real good too, yeah.
I absolutely love the TV series. Who's the director? Is it Tika? Well, I'm not about to butcher his name.
Mhm.
But yes, so got that. You got Blade. We've mentioned that a few times. Vampire in Brooklyn, and then the newer versions of Nosferatu. So there's the TV show that uses numbers in the spelling, and then there's the movie that just came out. So those are the ones that we're kind of giving you as homework. As we said, if there's any that we didn't mention today that you're like, I can't believe you missed this,
Mm,
like tell us,
no.
right? Be nice though.
Yeah.
Be nice about it.
Make sure you ask your final homework question because it's a good one.
Yeah, so we have a question for y'all to give us or leave us in the chat. And so, which vampire would you fear living next door to? Would it be Count Orlok, who is from Nosferatu, the edgy teen vampires from the 80s? i.e., the Lost Boys, the bloodthirsty, pure predator from 30 Days of Night, or one that was stealing your culture. So
So
we want you to drop your pick. Which one would you rather live next door to and why?
who I pick. I know who Imma go give a cake to. All right. Okay, okay.
Knock knock. Hi
Knock, knock.
neighbor.
Yeah, Imma come
Welcome
to
to the
you.
welcome to the neighborhood.
Yes, 100%. But nonetheless, make sure you drop those comments, and as
Yes.
always, it was great spending time with y'all. I hope you enjoyed this one. Leave us
Yeah.
comments on what you wanna hear next. It's many, many monsters and slashers we can cover, so let us
Yes, it's
know.
a plethora, and we're ready. We're
Yes.
ready. So thank y'all again for joining us this week.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.